Can I taste your juice?
Hey folks, PBusardo. It's been one of those days, but woosah, take a deep breath and let's get to this video, because I think this video is really kind of highly anticipated by a lot of you out there, because you know there's something new coming out from Evolv, and there's a whole lot of speculation as to what it is and what it can do, and hopefully all will be answered for you in this video. Now, I've had a beta unit, and I've been playing with it and trying it. We know it has something to do with temperature. And in using the device, I've come to realize a couple of things. Number one, I don't really have to focus on my resistance a whole lot anymore, which is kind of nice, okay? Because now I can focus on, the size of my coil, what my build looks like. Number two, I don't have to worry about burning anything anymore if you have it set the right way. And then finally, something else that I've noticed, like with some of my dual coil builds, sometimes if my wattage is too high, the first hit will be good, and then the second one will be overpowered because your coil's heat is heated up at that point. But if you set it too low, then that first hit is kind of weak, and then you got to let things heat up. A lot of these problems go away with the new Evolv board. And now I could sit here and tell you about it all day long, but let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth. So look who I got behind me. Come on out. Look at this. There's so many exciting people have come out of that door back there, and this is huge for me, Brandon. You got to get in the camera, get nice and close. I have Brandon from Evolv at my house. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome, man. So you've got a lot to say about this board.
Yeah, I want to talk about our new board, the DNA 40. It's a 40-watt board, and it's the first production board that can accurately measure and limit temperature at the coil. Okay.
So now, by the way, and I've said this before, so I get used to something fixed, out comes variable voltage. I get used to variable voltage. You guys screw everything up with variable wattage, right? Which was a great thing.
Right.
Now I got used to variable wattage. You can screw everything up again with temperature control.
Yeah, we saw a need for it from a safety standpoint. Most people know that juices past a certain degree of temperature will start to degrade into
Toxic stuff.
Yeah, stuff
that we don't want to be breathing.
And none of us started vaping to put ourselves in more danger, or any danger for that matter. And this is just one of the ways that we felt this was the next logical step in the evolution of the e-cigarette, was to control temperature.
It's the only thing that really makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to solve the e-cigarette, this is certainly one of the things you have to have in there.
Right.
Because right now we run with devices that are sort of from a temperature standpoint are uncontrolled. So if you can control this portion of it, no more burnt wick, no more dry hits, no more no more questionable products in the juice. If you can keep it below a level where the juice will degrade, or the wicking will break down,
right,
or combust.
And this is actually a very timely thing, because Dr. Farsalinos is going to announce the temperature study he's about to do, and I mean this kind of just plays right in hand. I mean, if we know the temperatures that bad things are happening, we can avoid that with this new product.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that was that was our impetus. We actually have a few new technologies that we've been working on. This one sort of took front and center after the deeming regs came out, because the one thing we've not done very well as an industry is given the FDA, or any regulator for that matter, a framework to work within. We think with temperature control, because that has always been the question for the regulator, is are these things safe? Are they safe? And if they're running, especially with the higher power devices we have now, if they're running out of control from a temperature standpoint, that's not a good thing. Now, I do want to say that temperature and heat are two different constructs.
This is a tough one to get your mind around, because a lot of people think it's the same thing. So.
Right. Well, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but if you think of it this way, heat, wattage, power, controls vapor volume. So the amount of cloud you get is directly attributable to the amount of power that you throw at it. And of course your your coil's ability to wick, and
Right.
or your wicking's ability to wick juice to the coil. Temperature goes to taste, and to not charring your wick and not breaking down the juice. But more temperature does not equal more cloud, and I think that's an important distinction. More power equals more cloud. More temperature does not equal more cloud.
And that's probably a pretty huge misconception out there right now. Because I think,
I've had this discussion with a few people, even in our own beta group, that were confused about the effects of temperature and vapor. Again, it's real simple. If you just think about it as, power equals volume, and temperature equals taste. That's the easiest way to.
right. So once you get to the we'll call it the boiling point of e-liquid,
Mm-hmm.
you can go beyond that all day long, and you're not going to get any more vapor.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah. And once you go too far beyond that, you get into juice degradation.
Nasty stuff.
Your wicking will char, especially with cotton and things like that. And what we've done with this is, if you keep the temperature limit set above the boiling point, but below the char point of your wicking, it gives for a nice vape. You can vape it completely. You can vape your rebuildable completely dry, even with organic cotton. Never burn the cotton. You can vape the last bit of the juice out of it, and if you open it up, you can take a look at the cotton. I mean, you've obviously used it,
right. So
you won't get any of that charring, any of that burnt, that nasty burnt taste. So the idea is to stay, slightly above the boiling temperature of the juice, but below the char point of your wicking. And I think if you can do those two things, and silica has a much higher
Sure.
char point, but once you get vegetable glycerin above about I think it's 536 degrees Fahrenheit, then you're starting to create some of the dull hide, some of the bad stuff.
Right.
So,
and I think we've seen that from some of the studies in the past where formaldehydes and those different things were created, but we don't know why. I mean, it could be as simple as a dry wick, right? Because if you have a dry wick, the temperature goes
very
higher.
likely a dry
right?
wick or superheat, causing the juice to degrade,
Right.
into its base components, and that's that seemed to us the next logical place to go. Like I said, we've been working on a few different things, but with the deeming regs where they were at, we felt like the temperature was the most important to bring out.
So do you think at this point you because I know when I came to, and thanks for having me at the other factory, that was awesome, by the way. There's no John with you today.
No, John couldn't make the trip. He's back working.
Well, somebody asked me. They said,
we keep him squirreled away. We keep him squirreled away over there. That's right.
Somebody asked me. They said, well, now that they figured out temperature, what's next for Evolv? And I said that John is probably working on a neural interface where you just kind of think about your favorite vape.
You know what?
It happens, right?
If it could be done, he could do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sign up for that one though. I don't want holes in my head with like probes hanging out of it. But so John figured this out then, huh?
Yeah. John, John a long time ago. One of the things about Evolv as a company, we tend to already be working on the next thing when we release the current thing.
Of course.
We are already working on something else now, but it takes a long time to develop. And one of the things that we like to do is do them very well. We did wattage very well. We believe we did temperature very well. So we are already working on the next generation, but that gives us a good amount of time to get that prepared and get it perfected.
And I've done some preliminary testing. You saw some of my. I already have charts and graphs and everything, on this, and I was impressed. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Even with the simple equipment that I have to measure, but.
Well, when we first started messing with this, one of the things that struck me was just that how well, even back then when it wasn't working as well as it is today, just how well it worked to, all those things that every vapor, and I don't care whether it's a SIG-like user, an ego user, has run into, is you've run your cartomizer back in the day out of juice, you've run your atomizer out of juice, we've all gotten the dry hits and that sort of awful taste, and the fact that this, even when it wasn't working very well, got rid of that. It was astonishing. what I do is I take, I'll take a dripper like this and I'll run it all the way down to no juice and show people. I'll say, just keep vaping, vape well beyond the point where you would have stopped and dripped again, and let it get down to there. Run it without, without any, without any juice on it, and take a look at the cotton afterwards.
Right, and that's a byproduct of this that I want to talk about too. But you came up to me at Vegas. I think Vegas was when I first saw the first prototype of it. That's okay. They expect to see that. They want to see. They want to see.
That's set to 400 degrees. So
400 degrees.
That tells you.
Right.
That's not a particularly high temperature, but you can still blow a cloud.
Right. Okay. And in Vegas, you said, "Here, this is dry. Try it." Like most of the times, you don't do that to friends, but Brandon did, and you could tell it was dry, but it wasn't like harsh and annoying and like just a terrible experience, right? And that pretty much solves it. So we do have a whole bunch of features on this new board, and we're going to talk about those new features and some different things. And let's start off by saying, because I just got the new flask in, and this flask does have the temperature control board in it. And I asked Brandon, I said, I almost remembered, I said, it's the negative side, towards the caps, right? And he said, well, don't worry about it. So is this the first Evolv board that will not smoke instantly when we put the batteries in?
Well, I think in the video we sort of admitted that was one that we missed. And yes, this board is protected against reverse polarity. So
see that reverse battery protection? We got it.
Yeah, so you can stick your battery in all day long, upside down, leave it in there, nothing will happen.
That's terrific.
Will happen. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. A lot of people are going to be applauding you for that.
Yeah.
All right. So we definitely have reverse battery protection on this one.
Right.
And so what are some of the other features? Now, you just mentioned step down.
Yeah, step down. Like I said, a lot of people were screaming for step down, and what step down is with the DNA 30s, we could not step down the voltage below the battery's
battery. Right.
So whatever the battery was under load is the lowest voltage we could go to.
Right.
What this does is it allows us, with the step down technology, it allows us to go all the way down to 1 watt on anything within our range. Any resistance within the range of the DNA 40, we can take it all the way down to 1 watt. We can also so what that does is it allows people who don't necessarily want the real high wattage, but they do like some of the low ohm stuff. A lot of times, even with my builds on my K funds, I was a lot of times too low to vape where I wanted to, so I had to take it up. If I wanted a regulated vape, I had to take it up above.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw many a DNA board flashing the resistance at me. Yeah. Right. So I mean, you do have a product that's going to be able to grow with people. They can start off low if they want to explore higher wattage. They can do that. Okay.
Absolutely. And people using commercial tanks and things like that vape around 10 watts, or maybe they don't even like 10 watts or 7 watts is too much for them. Now they can get a device. One of the other complaints I heard is that the DNA devices, people wanted them, but there were certain people. Michael Cozy, CozyCon.
Yeah, he's the perfect example.
He's a great example of that. Right. He was like, I would use your DNA, Brandon, but it just doesn't go low. Yep. And so now they can own that nice device they want, and if they want to vape at a 40 watt level or something like that, they can do that, and they can do it safely.
Yeah, I tend to dial down like right before bed.
Yeah,
that's always my lowest wattage is like right before bed. Right. I just the way I vape, So we'll get into the temperature in a little bit. So we got reverse polarity, we've got step down. What else can we talk about with this? Well, how about the range? Okay, so this does go from 1 watt up to 40 watts.
Right. It goes from 1 watt to 40 watt. The range of atomizers, Canthal coil. Oh, that's the other thing.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that. Yeah. I mean, that definitely gets into the temperature stuff, because for it to do its temperature control, we're going to be using a different kind of wire with this.
Yeah, commercially pure nickel wire, nickel 200.
Okay.
That's what you'll be using, and I think it's sold actually right now. A lot of vape shops as
the non-resistant
wire.
I mean, like, talk about how times change. I mean, the last time I used nickel wire was probably for a non-resistance joint in my Ithaca.
Right. With a cap welder. It's the legs that people have been. So we've been using nickel, just not in this way. Nickel is very much you buy an annealed nickel 200. It wraps just like a Canthal coil. It's a little softer.
It is a little softer, right?
Yeah, you can actually order it with a number 1 temper on it, which will make get closer to Canthal.
Okay.
So that is something that you know, we want to let people know. I don't have any that's number 1 tempered, but
Well, let's see. What do I have? I don't know if this is number 1. This is what I just bought.
That's annealed.
Okay, so this is annealed.
Yeah, that's soft.
Okay, this is the soft stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if you could see, that is Temco. Okay, so I mean, this I just bought this off
actually
of.
cheaper than Canthal.
I bought it off of eBay. It's not like it's going to run you any kind of like additional money to do your builds or anything.
Right.
But we are using a non-resistance wire now. Right. So when I put that picture up on Facebook and people, I mean, like here I am screaming safety, screaming, watch your ultra low builds, and I go and put a picture on Facebook that shows me using a 0.06 ohm.
Right, which is actually outside of the spec for this board.
Okay.
The board spec is 0.1 and above.
Okay.
Okay, so 0.1 is about as low as you. I mean, it'll work with a 0.6, and that's part of a soft limiting.
0.06.
Or 0.06.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of our soft limiting feature. Which, with soft limiting, what it allows you to do is like with the DNA 30, the DNA 20, when you tried to fire something that was too low on it, it would hit current limit, and it would show you either shorted or check atomizer. It would not fire. One of the things we did with the 40 was we put in a soft limiting, and what that means is that if you put on something that's 0.06 like you did, it will still vape fine. You're just going to be running at current limit, and it will tell you right on the screen. It will tell you that ohms too low. It'll pop up and say ohms too low. It'll continue to vape. You're just not going to get the full 40 watts until you move up to that 0.1 ohm. With Canthal.
Before you jump into that's important to note too. Now you can still use Canthal on this.
Absolutely, it will automatically switch out of temperature mode when you use Canthal. If you want to use the temperature sensing properties of it, you need to roll your coils with nickel. You don't need to change anything else. Just the type of material you're using to roll your coils.
Right. So if you want temperature sensing, and if you want to be able to limit your temperature and control your temperature via the board, you got to use the nickel.
Yes.
And but it's still just like any other DNA if you use Canthal and now using Canthal, is it still 1 to 40 watts?
No, it's yes, it's still 1 to 40 watts.
Okay.
We're still doing that. You will need to build a 0.16 or above.
0.16. Okay, so that's your limit.
That's our limit. That's our low end limit. Now you can vape on a 0.1 ohm Canthal.
But we're going to have limiting.
But you're going to have limiting. You're going to hit our current limit.
Okay.
Okay. This board is capable of putting out about 23 amps peak. We soft limited about 15. So it's going to, you might be able to on a 0.1. I don't know the calculator, but you could get, somewhere close to 40, but you're not going to get 40.
Okay.
Okay.
But 0.16.
0.16.
I don't think there's anything regulated that's going that low at this
point. and we are protecting the user from the batteries. Let's say somebody takes a Panasonic 10 amp and throws it in there, and you're running, at 40 watts. Because remember, it's watts in, watts out. So the battery needs to produce 40 watts. A 10 amp battery would have a hard time producing 40 watts. That's also part of our soft limiting system. With the DNA 30, it would simply reboot. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that where you hit the button and it just sort of flashes off. And
Always.
Then you get
I think I made that. I think that was a thumbs down in the video. As a matter of fact, I said do it more gracefully.
Yeah. But what it's doing is protecting you. It's protecting the battery actually.
Right.
With the soft limiting, what it does is it takes a look at the battery and it says, okay, the battery can't put this out, not safely. So we're going to drop you down to a setting that is safe for this battery. So if you put a 10 amp battery, so if somebody picks up a DNA mod, they don't know much about it, they slap a battery in there that they think will work, they'll never be in danger. And we're not going to try and pull 40 amps or 40 watts from a battery that simply can't.
Okay, so all your battery monitoring, all that safety,
all that is in there. As a matter of fact, I think we actually widened that a lot with this. Like I said, with the soft limiting. I mean, because what we didn't want is, when you pick something up and you go to vape on it and it won't vape, that is a bad experience as far as I'm concerned. So what we did was we give you nice, we tell you exactly, we give you actionable steps on the screen to tell you, okay, you want to vape at 40, your ohms are too low with this Canthal coil, we're not going to let you go to 40, but it tells you right on the screen, it flashes it 3 times, ohms too low.
Okay. But it's still going to work.
It's still going to work.
Right.
One of the other things we're doing is with the temperature protection. If you hit that temperature limit, what will happen is if you stay there for more than a second, it will also flash that on the screen. It'll still allow you to vape. I mean, you haven't done anything wrong. You're just, we're just letting you know that you're at the limit,
Right.
that you've hit that limit. You know, where this technology really shines isn't, with a wet coil, typically you're not going to get, I don't care what you're throwing at it, as long as the coil is wet, you're not going to get much over the boiling point. I mean, but where this really shines is when you reduce airflow on a somewhat dried out coil or a completely dry coil. When you pause in the middle of a puff, where you're drawing, you pause, draw more. That's where, when we were doing all the experimentation, that's where we saw temperatures really take off. And that's where the temperature protection of the board kicks in, and it protects you from those high temperatures.
Right.
And that's really what it's for. It's just there to protect the user. Because as you slow your draw, obviously temperatures rise, and things of that nature.
Right. So and it's constantly monitoring the temperature, right?
Yes.
So
Hundreds of times per second.
hundreds of times per second. So as you draw, you
Yeah.
cool the coil.
That's
It
right.
pumps more watts against.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you can actually see on the display.
You can, yeah. And
it
there's
will
going to
show
be
you.
Yeah. Close-ups. So you're gonna see some of the stuff.
Right.
I'll add that into the video.
Yeah.
And something else too. I mean, nobody's seen the interface on this one.
Right.
So you don't necessarily adjust in temperature, because I think that's kind of a misconception out there that people think you can. What you do is you set the temperature
limit
on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just adjust in watts the way you would normally.
Ordinarily. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Now, the way I've been describing this to people is that this is the way I kind of see it, is that the temperature limit is your speed limit.
Mhm.
Okay. And the wattage setting is like your acceleration or torque. Now, maybe you have a better explanation for that. Because, okay, so if I have a temperature limit set, why do I need watts anymore?
Because you're controlling two different things. I think with the temperature limit, first and foremost, you're protecting taste. We've all had those, like I said, the bad instances where you go well over temperature, or even slightly over temperature, and you get that nasty kind of burnt taste.
Yeah.
So, and temperature really protects the taste of the juice, is what it's doing, but it also keeps you from getting all the nasty crap. It's definitely a safety feature. The wattage still plays the same role that it did before, which is vapor volume. Everybody wants the full lung feel, the good throat hit. That is still controlled by
The wattage. Right.
Yeah, that's still a wattage feature. So really what you're doing is you're doing two different things. You're saying, okay, I don't want to go above this temperature, but I still want this much wattage. And what happens is when it hits that limit, it will drop, and you can see this all on the screen as you're using it. Like if I don't draw through this, and I just this dripper, and I just hold the button down, I'm going to see on the screen where it's going to reduce power.
Yes.
If I hit my limit.
Right.
And so we're talking about two completely separate things. Again, temperature and heat, two totally separate things. One controls volume, the other controls taste. I think if you think about it that way, it's probably the easiest. So there's more things to fiddle with now, which is fun.
Yeah.
But really, all you have to, this is not a control. This is a limit. So it just keeps you from going over it.
Right. I mean, I've had my devices set the wrong way at points, or and you hit the button and you could instantly burn your wick, and then you have to kind of deal with that burnt taste. You're kind of stuck with it until you change your wick out.
Right.
And one of the things that I noticed with this, I mean, so I'm at 14.5 watts right now. I can crank this all the way up to 40 watts, and nothing is burning in there.
Right.
Which is kind of cool. I mean, I feel like a hotter, stronger vape, right? But it's really not.
Yeah. No, it won't, from a temperature standpoint, won't get above wherever your setting is. It won't allow it. So it's there are a few things you need to know with this. One is that when you put on your coil, it needs to know that the coil and the mod are the same temperature, so you don't want to put a hot coil on this. That's really the number one thing. And from time to time, when it detects that you've taken one coil off, or if I unscrew this and put it back on, it will prompt me.
Yeah, it asks you if it's the same
It'll
Coil,
ask you.
right?
It'll say, is this a new coil? Hit up for yes, down for no. Now we only prompt when we don't know. So the device is smart. It knows most of the time if it's the same coil or a different coil, and it won't ask if it knows. But if it's unsure, it will ask you. It will prompt you.
Okay, see, now that's the first time. Now, I've been using the beta board, and every time I unscrew and screw back onto the beta board, it asks me if it's new. Now,
Well,
this is
we've
the,
done a
this
lot
is
of yeah, we've
this
done
is
a
the
lot
new.
of
Okay,
refinement
so
with
even I'm not
with
used
the
to this
production
one right
board.
now.
The production board and the beta board are too.
How accurate are you getting with the temperature? Do you do any?
We're about plus or minus 10.
plus or minus
degrees.
10
10
degrees.
degrees. That's what we found through through infrared cameras. We're about plus or minus 10 degrees.
Yeah, I need to buy me one of those.
Yeah, and we did actually. A beta tester did this wonderful thing. He took and didn't put any juice on, but rolled a coil, pulled organic cotton through it, set it to the different temperatures, and sent us a picture of what the actual cotton looked like at each temperature.
And that's completely dry cotton.
That's completely dry. That's with no juice on it.
Right.
And at about, I think it was about 410, there was absolutely no charring of the cotton. You go to 420, you could start to see it yellowing a little bit, and then you went to 430, you could start to see it yellowing a little more. By the time you got up to 460, 470, it was charred brown. And that's
Now, so there, I mean, this could potentially bring out like a lot of changes in the industry. I mean, I really think it's going to change. First of all, did China clone it yet? If they have this video,
what time is it?
I know. Clearly, so what you're saying is that yours won't do this right here.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that.
Yeah. Now, see, you're over temperature there because
It's visible,
it's visible.
right?
It's visible, and that only becomes in the IR spectrum, that only becomes visible when it's over 1,000 degrees or thereabout.
So do you see this leading to I mean, so we get wicking material now, and do you see like maybe wicking material will now come with temperature recommendations or temperature limits on the wicking material?
We've
do you
talked
think
to-
do you think e-liquid I mean, our e-liquid companies, because now we know e-liquid companies are they're sending out testing for the diacetyl and things like that.
Absolutely.
Are they going to start needing to test their liquids for temperature now?
We would love that.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. We've already talked to it.
I bet you that the liquid companies don't like that,
No,
but
well, no, actually, we talked to several of them about this technology, and they seemed excited about it because that's an easy test for them to do. Is to give the lab a flavor and say, okay, at what point does this start breaking down? If they can put a maximum temperature on the bottle, that tells you right there where to set it. I mean, it's very, very, very
Right,
simple,
right.
and it's not a tough test.
Right. And it's just it's just more education for the vapor out there. We're not saying that you have to abide by this,
Right.
but if you want to be as safe as possible,
Yeah.
these are all added safety features that we can use
Yeah.
to vape as safely as possible.
Yeah, again, and this is a personal thing with me, but I mean, I did not quit. I smoked for 20 years, and I did not quit smoking to put myself in danger. I mean, that is not something I did. So this, for me, is an important technology. Especially, as we move to things like this, which require more power. Okay, but with that, applying more power to this also means that the heat or the temperature. See, even I get confused. The temperature will, the temperature will run out of control more quickly. It's, so we're adding, so the further we get down along this path of, more power, I think that, we need to start talking, why didn't we do a DNA 200, or something like that? Well, because until we could have released, well, heck, the original Darwin, we hemmed it in, we throttled it back to 12.7. It was originally a 20-watt device. We put that out in 2010. So, I mean, that was originally a 20-watt device. So more power is not hard. I mean, if you want a kilowatt DNA, we can give you a kilowatt DNA.
1.21 gigawatt.
Right,
yeah,
but
yeah.
can we do it safely?
Right, and
Okay,
I
and
actually, when I visited the factory there, I kind of had a side conversation with you about like ethics.
Right.
Right, and because right now, personally, I'm having an ethical issue with looking at devices that are like like the one that I just had on camera. This Sigelli 100-watt device. Right.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm all about And you know, other reviewers do things for different reasons, and that's fine. But I want to help people not smoke,
Right.
right? And I don't think this device is really a device that is designed to help people not smoke. There's a different reason for this device,
Yeah.
right? So when I talked to you, I said, you know, well, how do you feel about the next evolution of the Evolv product, the 50 watt, the 100 watt, however many watts you come with down the road? And you know, you had a problem with that, but if you can control the temperature now, you're not allowing people, if they set it the right way,
That's right.
right, to get into a dangerous, you know,
That's right.
area.
Yeah, and that was important to us. You know, that's why we weren't in that arms race, that sort of watts arms race. You know, if more power were, you know, we did that back in 2012. You know, when we went, or actually 2013, when we, you know, went from the 20 to the 30. More power is not necessarily innovative; it's just more power.
I'm trying to explain that to people. Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
but it is difficult to do safely. I mean, you know, that's the problem you run into. I mean, at the time we brought out the Darwin, the reason we made it 12.7, and we arbitrarily picked that number. It wasn't, you know, it was just sort of like, well, 12.7 sounds kind of mysterious. So
I often wonder why it wasn't 13 or yeah, right.
But that was actually a 20 watt board. But you know, at that time when you had cartomizers and atomizers, and that's all you had,
you really didn't need it.
you didn't need it, and
Right.
and it was and we, both John and I, felt like it was dangerous at 20 watts. I mean, if you take an old cartomizer, you know, a 510 cartomizer, which is what most people were using, and you run that at 20 watts, you're going to burn the filler
Instantly.
I mean, yeah, all that batting material in there just suddenly melts and becomes hard, and you know, we saw that. It was fun. We could shoot vapor out the top of, you know, the old cartomizers.
That was more like smoke coming out of it.
Right,
It wasn't vapor,
yeah,
right?
It wasn't vapor, you're right. But you know, we just didn't feel like we could get into that arms race and still stick to you know, our beliefs as far as, you know, bringing out products that try to protect the user rather than exploit the user.
Right.
So
Okay, so what about the temperature settings on here now? Like, how low will it go? How high will it go?
the low end is 200.
Okay.
I don't really know why we made it so low, but 200.
Well, you also
and,
made it 1 watt too, right? I
yeah,
mean, what is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna be
Okay.
Well, somebody might.
But it's nice. It's nice that it's there, sure.
The high end is 600, and you have the option to turn it off, even with a temperature controlled coil in there, a temperature limited.
So you
coil.
can turn the temperature control off,
It can be turned off,
even with the nickel wire.
even with the nickel wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Do we know what the temperature is where bad things start happening?
we do, but not with every juice. No, I mean, you know, that's going to be based on the different flavorings in the juice.
So was the high end of 600, right? Was there a conscious decision there, or is it?
No, as a matter of fact, I've never run over 500. You know, if I use a silica wicking, you know, I may run close to 500 because it's a nice warm vape, and but you can't do it with organic cotton. It just, you know, at that, I mean, the char point of cotton, I believe, is 410.
Okay, and that's interesting because I've had mine set to 400 degrees. That's where I've been happy.
Right.
Right. Okay, now how about this question? Because I just said 400 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of people overseas and in Canada right now. They're going, "What the hell is 400 degrees mean?"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we will be making a Celsius version of this.
Okay, so
we may even make it switchable. We have not done that yet, but that's a very, very easy software.
okay, so
change.
you hear that? Relax.
Yeah.
Okay,
We will
it's
have,
coming
we will have Celsius for the rest of the world.
for the rest of the
Yeah,
world.
for
Why
the
are
rest
we
of the
still
world.
there? You know,
I don't know.
I don't know either. Just makes life more complicated
Yeah.
for me. I think.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
One of the other things we're doing with this, because now that we can accurately monitor the temperature of the coil, we put a preheat feature on this, which
Yeah.
if you're using a temperature limiting coil, so if you're using a nickel 200 coil, it will actually dump a bunch of power to the coil to get it hotter quicker. Okay. So, you know, because really below the boiling point, nothing fascinating is happening except you're making the user wait for vapor.
Right.
So because we can accurately, instead of just bombarding the coil without knowing what the temperature is, I mean, if you're already using a hot coil, but now we can accurately measure temperature. So, you know, as long as we're not going over their you know, their set point, we can actually just whack the coil. So there's, you know, you'll find that it's much quicker quicker
yeah.
to heat.
And you can see that on the screen because like I have it set to 14.5 watts right now, and I push the button and I see it peaks out as 20, then it comes back down again.
Yeah.
So that's actually something that you can see on the screen.
Yeah, it'll dump an enormous amount of power to it until it gets gets to that until it feels like it's heated above the boiling point.
Right.
So,
and I'm glad I have the flask now because if I have a long enough drip tip, I can see what the hell's going on because like literally where's my here? Okay, with the Hannah. You know, you got the screen on the side.
Yeah.
I was vaping in front of the mirror, looking to see what the hell was going on.
No, you just or you can use the vapor shard.
Yeah, the vapor shard. You can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now something that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. We're using nickel as a heating wire.
Right.
Okay. Now nickel's got some nasty stuff in it.
Well, it only has nickel in it, but
well, okay, but I mean,
no, but yeah,
but you've done some research there, and you've
we would, this is something. First of all, that we've been vaping around. I mean, stainless steel contains a good portion of nickel, but it's also something that's already in the atomizers. With obviously you said you had a cap welder and you used to weld the legs on, so it was something that it has a very well studied safety profile. It is a very stable metal. It doesn't oxidize easily. It has an extremely high melt temperature, so it doesn't leach. It's used in vacuum applications because it doesn't gas until you get it. I'm not even sure what the melt point is, but it's up there. So we felt like it was definitely the right material to use. I don't want to say it's safer than Campo, but it is. In our estimation, is not at the temperatures we're using this at. It poses no. We don't feel like it poses any threat.
Okay. Now, what if you take the temperature control off and you fire it at its maximum wattage? I mean, is that
at your own risk?
That's your right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's I mean, but we're doing that already with Campo. And then you get pitting, leaching. I mean, there's a lot of bad things. You get metal fatigue. Not any of it good. So you want to, when you're using the nickel wire, or if you're using a Kanthal wire, you're sort of running uncontrolled with Kanthal. We feel like with nickel, at least you're staying within bounds, reasonable bounds.
Okay.
And again, it doesn't do anything to take away your vapor. So those cloud chasers, it's more heat and more temperature does not equal more fire.
Right.
Okay.
That's an important one to get out.
Yeah.
I can show you guys metal fatigue right now. You can see that coil start it there, and then eventually it's going to just start to bend. Let's see if we can let that happen. There it goes. Oh,
there it goes. Yeah.
Shit. Wow, that one almost fell off. Okay. But yeah, that's metal fatigue. Okay. Yeah. And that's a thick Kanthal on there too, by the way.
Yeah, and that's so. I mean, you look at the temperatures on that. I mean, if we had an infrared camera here, that's some serious.
Yeah.
That's some serious.
Right.
Temperature right there.
So we have a bunch of devices here that this is already in. I mean, obviously this is going to be, in like all the big players are gonna, have this. So we have it in a flask, we have it in a Hannah or a Hana.
Yep.
But now you have a couple there too.
Yeah, I got the Vapor Shark.
The Vapor Shark, it's in the Vapor Shark.
Opus.
The new Opus. Here's a new device that is the BAP.
The BAP, yeah.
The BAP right here, new one that came out or is coming out. So a lot of people are going to ask now, when, Brandon, when?
Well,
when and how much, right?
Well, I guess the official release is whatever date that this video goes up. That is, I think.
So if you're watching this video right now, they're going to be out there. They're going to be available.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in cost, like for the modder? Okay. The people who are buying these boards, what's the difference in cost between, we'll say, a 30 and the new 40? Is there are you calling it the 40 TC? Is it?
No,
does it have
just the 40.
Just the 40. Okay.
Just the 40.
So if you have a 40, you're getting the temperature control in it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I think you'll find us marching forward. Like anything that we do, we're going to continue to add things to this. Again, it's the e-cigarette unsolved. And we feel like we're getting one step closer with this. And so anything that you see in the future, whether it be a Kick 3 or anything like that, we'll have this in it.
Okay.
We're not going to simply throw it out.
He said Kick 3.
Well, we don't have a Kick 3. Okay.
Sure, he does it. Yeah, he's got more stuff that I don't know about. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
But but yeah, I think I think this is the next logical step for us with this, and we have already started shipping these to manufacturers, so they'll be available. You were asking about
I had one here somewhere.
the cost to the modder. The modder will pay $60 instead of $50, so it's $10 more expensive.
That's it.
That's it.
So you're not changing the price by like
No.
$100 or anything. It's.
No, and we didn't even want to change it by 10.
I know I have one here. Hold on, let me pull one out. Let's see. Is it in this? No, it's not in that drawer. There it is.
Yep.
DNA 40D. What's the D stand for?
Huh? A display.
Display.
Okay. Which is kind of funny because nobody ever wants them without it.
No, I know this is exciting, but there it is. It looks just like a DNA.
Yeah,
but,
we
of
have
course,
rails.
this has rails
we have
now.
Mounting rails.
This is
We
the new
moved
one with the mounting
I forgot
rails.
to talk about that.
Right?
Yeah, we.
See, aren't you glad I took it out?
Yeah, we moved the.
It looks wider. It looks wider. But it's because of those rails.
Right, we moved the through holes to the
top.
top and bottom rather than off the side because one of the other. I mean, we do listen, and one of the complaints is how do you fixture this thing with the DNA 30 and the DNA 20. With this, we have 4 screw holes and removable rails. So if you're building something that it's the same exact, the DNA 40 is the same exact size as the DNA 30 with removable rails, which was really difficult for us because all the things that we threw into this board and keeping that same size because I mean it's a tiny board. I mean the DNA 30 is tiny.
Yeah.
But we wanted to keep that same size so that our manufacturers could just start dropping 40s in, when they released. And but also new people coming in, we wanted them to have a way of mounting it, a better way of mounting it.
Right.
The old one was very difficult to mount.
Sure. Custom sleds.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you can the rails are removable. You can just break them off. They're breakaway rails. If you want to use them, they're there.
Okay. So, and it has the same screen.
Same screen.
Same display.
Same display.
You adjust it the same way.
Same way.
Does it still have a lock on it?
Yes, yeah, it still has a 5-click lock. It still has the wattage lock.
Okay.
The way you change the temperature is you click it 5 times and put it in the lock mode.
We'll show people how to do that for sure. Yeah.
The only new thing you have to do is use, for the user, use the nickel 200 wire if you want the temperature protection, and just learn how to set your temperature, and that's pretty much the difference. It knows when you put on a Canthal coil. So it will automatically, the temperature display will automatically switch over to voltage.
Okay.
After it takes a look at it.
Right. So that's the one difference that we're seeing on the screen. Okay. So now we have the wattage setting like we've always seen it. The big the big numbers there, and then we have the resistance on the top. But below it, if we're in temperature mode, if it senses the nickel, we see the temperature setting.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And as soon as we go to Canthal, that just goes back to the standard DNA display.
Yep. It drops. So then, you just have a standard DNA 40 without temperature protection. So, so if you don't want to use the temperature portion of the board, you're certainly not forced to. It will operate just fine. It is step up, step down. It has all the, it keeps all the other features. Just the only thing you're lacking is the temperature protection.
Right.
So
John's been working long and hard over there.
He has. He has. We're going to let him out for some sunshine.
Poor guy. But I'm sure he's totally enjoying it. Though, too.
Well, he's already, John's creative, and he likes to create, and it's only fun to him if it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. So, where we're at now is we're moving into the next, like I said, the next tech. And we have some things that we're going to be bringing out.
Tell them all about it, Brandon. Go ahead. Here we go.
Well, the first thing.
Yeah.
Well, what we try to do as a company is create very high tech stuff that's very easy to use. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of tech companies make is they try to make high tech stuff that's hard to use, or is very complex. Really, our belief is keep it as simple as you can. I mean, we're ex-smokers. I don't want to have to think too much about the device I'm picking up. I just want it to work.
Right.
And so we keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tech that goes into these, but not a lot you need to know. Just know that we're trying to keep you safe and give you the experience that's giving you something more accurate to what you want.
Right. So it's doing all the fancy stuff. You just have to worry about your quick settings, and the settings are very, very elegantly done. And I noticed too that the screen doesn't stay lit for an hour and a half. Too.
No,
that's kind of nice.
We heard you. We heard you. we heard you over and over again. No, but that's yeah. We made that.
I noticed
we made that much quicker for you.
It dims almost instantly, because I always said, you know, the dimming feature on the DNA is like one of the most elegant things that you have on there, and people don't get to really enjoy it because it's on for so damn long.
Yeah. Well, after 10 seconds, it starts to dim out.
Okay.
And I think after 45 seconds, it's gone completely.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So it's not going to interrupt my TV
sure.
viewing.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it did seem like the next logical place to go. It really did. It makes a lot of sense. It's not as exciting as, you know, some new tech because it's a safety feature. But I think I think when you put it in terms of no more dry hits, no more bad tastes, that's worth it right there to me.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm the dummy that always runs my K fund well past empty because I'm on my way home and I'm going, okay, no, there's a little bit in there next time, no. And
Yeah.
like, well, I can, you're kind of hitting the button going, this could be bad.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I know. Well, but not only like no more bad taste, no more burnt, and those are the physical things that we're experiencing, but there's also the hidden things that we're not experiencing anymore because we can set this limit.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And that's
and like I said at the beginning of this video, it's really going to play hand in hand with what could potentially come from this Farsolino study.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to read that study when it comes.
I think we all will be. I know there's going to be a lot of people upset about it because they're going to feel like it's attacking them, but it's not attacking them. What we're trying to do is give ourselves as vapors as much information and as much education that we can get to make better decisions or not make those better decisions. That's up to that's up to you.
I mean,
guys.
I think honesty. I want to honestly know what I'm vaping.
Absolutely.
And I don't need anyone to sugarcoat that for me. I don't need anyone to. I want to know if there's something bad in there. I want to know about it.
Right, and I've always said that. I've always said that about Taste Your Juice, and I've always said that about the videos that I put out. If the information is good, I'm going to tell you guys about it. If the information is bad, I'm going to tell you guys about it.
Right.
Because I don't want to, like you said, sugarcoat anything.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Why?
You don't have to do that. I mean, especially with where we're at today with e-cigarettes. I mean, even if you look at where we've come in the last 4 years. I mean, look at the leaps ahead that we've made. Any problem is solvable as long as we know what the problem is. But if we can't identify the problem, we can't identify a solution.
Right.
So these types of studies, they there are two ways to look at it. You can look at it as a very negative thing. Oh, that's or you can look at it as a challenge. Well, let's solve this problem. Let's absolutely solve this problem.
For sure.
So, that was the thing we wanted to do with the temperature control. We didn't want to change the way people vaped because people like the way they vape. They like their rebuildable atomizers. We will have commercial heads out with these in them. We're working with 2 different manufacturers now for replacement coils.
Right, and that was
popular commercial.
Right,
coils.
and that was going to be a question I was going to ask. So obviously the technology. I mean, I've got it in a K fun. Okay, you've got it in drippers. You've got it in a K fun.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what you have, what you're using as a topper, as long as you use the right kind of wire.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely, and that's those should be out here very shortly. The wire is over in China. We sent them wire. We sent them instructions on what to do, and we're hoping to get those distributed to our the different manufacturers that want to carry the commercial coils. But these are for all the popular tanks.
Right. So you're going to see this in Aspire heads. You're going to see
Absolutely.
this in Kanger heads. You're going to see this in Inikin heads.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
really, and so you could use this technology in really anything.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like that's I feel like it wouldn't have been worth doing if we couldn't do it that way too.
Right.
Because I mean it's great. We're enthusiasts. We like to roll our own coils. We like to do things like that. But there's a very large percentage of people that still get dry hits, still get overheat, or over temp. That this could also benefit. Running your Aspire tank completely dry. Not a pleasant experience.
For sure.
But
something to keep in mind is that as you run it dry, the temperature goes up because it doesn't have liquid cooling it anymore.
That is correct.
So as your temperature goes up, that's where bad things could happen. Not necessarily to the juice at that point, but to the wicking material and the wire itself, right?
Well, even at the end of your drag, I mean, when you're no longer pulling vapor away from the coil, at the end of your drag, your temperature spikes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or if you hit the button beforehand and it comes to temperature, it'll spike. So if you slow your draw, if you pause your draw, all of these things can result in burning wicking, degraded juice.
Right. Here's a good question.
Okay.
Dual coils, quad coils.
Still, yeah.
How does it handle that?
Handles them fine.
Handles them fine.
As long as they're within the range of resistance, you absolutely can do dual coils.
And so it doesn't.
Yeah, if you're going to run dual coils in parallel, which is how
everybody does it, right?
Everybody does it.
Right.
The only thing we ask is that you get
balanced the same
coils,
resistance
right.
against. Okay. Yeah.
So you
Which
want balanced
makes sense
coils.
anyway. You want to do that anyway, right?
Right. Right. I mean, what that. But if somebody will create an atomizer that does a serial or a series coil, you could also use a series coil with this.
You can.
Which would mean you could have one little coil on one side, one big coil on the other, and it really wouldn't. What we're doing is we're taking an average temperature, so that includes the legs of the. What we're not giving you is an exact temperature of the coil. What we're giving you is the average temperature from the legs across the coil back through the leg.
Okay.
Now the legs do get hotter, so what you're seeing is an average. So those two legs that aren't coming in contact with the wicking, with the juice, those are going to run a little bit hotter. Because people are like, well, even in the beta group we had this, well, how can I be running at 420 and not burning my cotton? Well, that's because it's an average temperature.
Okay.
So if your legs are longer on your coil, there's going to be a slight adjustment up in the average. If they're shorter, like in a K-fun, you use very short legs because you got to get real tight in there.
Okay.
Those are going to be closer to the actual. But what we're showing you is an average temperature across the coils.
So now you said where you want to be is at 0.1 or above with the temperature sensing with the nickel wire. What is the lowest it will go, or
about a 0.5, 0.05.
0.05. So I was almost at the limit.
You can actually run a Canthal coil at 0.05.
You can actually run a Canthal coil at 0.05.
Sure, you're just not going to get a full 40.
Right, and there's no issues. It's not like a mech running at 0.05.
No, gosh, no. No, it's watts in, watts out. Remember, we're you have a barrier between the battery and the So let's say for instance we're throwing 25 amp, out the output. The source does not require 25 amp because it's at and that's something that a lot of people have a hard time. I get a lot of emails about that my battery's not capable of X, but it's putting out that many amps. Am I in danger? And the answer is no. It's when you think about regulators, think of it as watts out, watts in.
Okay.
Minus losses. So if something's 95% efficient, so you're pushing 40 on the output, you've got 40 plus 5% being pulled out of the battery.
Okay.
So as long as it's able to handle that, you're fine. But with the soft limiting features of this, it doesn't matter. It'll drop it for you. Right. The other nice thing about soft limiting is if you're on your way home, you don't have a battery, your battery's almost dead, it will automatically start to knock down until you hit a 2.75 under load on that battery.
Okay.
It will allow you to keep vaping. It's just going to keep dropping. Your obviously your wattage will be reduced.
Right.
It will allow you to
It'll get you home.
It'll get you home.
I've had that happen.
Right.
Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then panic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Here's something that I didn't ask. When a board like the 40 comes out.
Yes.
Right. How does this affect all the folks who just bought 30s from you, who are putting out mods with 30s in it? I mean, you have to go to the next thing eventually, right? But how do you handle that? Because there's got to be a certain amount of backlash. Yeah. When anybody puts a Rev 2 out, all the people who just bought the Rev 1 are upset.
And that is tough. I mean, that is tough. But
yeah.
But the new board from us was probably the worst kept secret in the beta industry. I mean, what it was kept pretty quiet. I mean, we had a fantastic group of beta testers, and they really didn't say much other than that they were trying the new tech. But yeah, I mean, if you look at our releases, we're very much on a schedule. We tend to develop the next product. Like I said, we start development on it now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always hard being that guy that bought the last 5S before the 6 came out.
Of course it is. Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. And
that's why when I buy a computer, I do not look at computers until I'm ready to buy a computer
Right.
again, because I know as soon as I plug it in, it's outdated, right? I mean,
Right.
that's just something that
Yeah, but
happens.
here's but here's the surprising thing. I mean, we still have one of the main questions we got with the 30, or with the advent of the 40, because we let the manufacturers know that this was coming some time ago. Was, will they still be able to get 30? So there's still quite a number that are going to carry the um, the 30, even with the 40 out, and that's something else I didn't mention. We are bringing out a temperature controlled 25 watt board as well, that is much more economical. So
Okay.
we're hoping that'll get into some of the more consumer, rather than enthusiast pointed devices, but more of the consumer pointed devices.
And that's
So,
excellent, because some people may not want to pay for that 40 watts because they'll never use that
yeah,
40 watts.
if you're somebody that uses a commercial coil, if you're using an Aspire or a Kanger tank or a Inikin tank, you're probably never going to need one for you.
Right.
25 will do just fine for you. I mean, I still use my 20th. I still use my DNA 20s. Only for the fact that I don't go much above, 15, 17.
Neither do
so,
I. Neither do I. Right.
But yeah, that was one of the things that surprised me, because in all the past releases, nobody's ever asked, well, you're going to continue to sell the thing that came before. But the 30 was such a, I believe it. I believe it to be an extremely well-made product, an extremely enduring product. So I think that one, that one will be sold into the future.
Right. I mean, I still have a bunch of DNA 30 products to look at too.
Right.
So it's not like
Yeah.
it's an obsolete product. It's still a fantastic product,
And we released it 9 months ago. I mean,
yeah, right,
yeah, I mean,
right.
That's
And I've never had a DNA or a kick fail
Yeah.
without it being at my own hand for putting the batteries in the wrong way, right? And that's obviously resolved.
Well,
now.
and I think we get better at this. I mean, I think we get better at the technology. The Darwin was approving of the technology. No one had ever seen variable wattage
Right.
prior to that, so that was approving. And I think we've gotten, with each successive generation of products, they've gotten much better at it. And I think that just follows. I think all manufacturers are like that. They just,
of course,
as you get used to doing something over and over, you get much better at it.
right. But you're improving based on your own technology and your own innovation, not
Right.
based on what you're looking at out there in the marketplace.
No, as a matter of fact, yeah, it's what was it? The quote from Henry. I don't know. It's credited to Henry Ford. I don't know if he actually said it or not. But it's one of the things you have to do as a tech company, as somebody who, if you're looking for innovation, sometimes you can look to your user base for innovation. Sometimes you have to look outside. And Henry Ford said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Sometimes you have to go outside of that and kind of design on your own and throw it up against a wall and see if it sticks. I mean, there are other things that we've come up with that nobody's ever seen that were colossal wastes of time. So
Give us one.
No, because we may still revive it.
Oh, okay. Will we ever see another device out of Evolv, or are you done with devices? Was the Darwin the first and last?
Boy, that's a timely question. I don't. I can't say. I mean, it's been a subject of discussion of late.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. It really depends on, as a company, what direction we want to go march into the future. I don't want to compete. I can tell you this: I don't want to compete with my customers.
Yeah, that's a tough.
I don't want to compete with my
Of
customers.
course. Yeah.
So, and I probably couldn't do it as well as they do. So
There are some impressive people out there putting
Yes.
your product in their product.
there certainly is, and I think that for the time being, we're going to stay on the tech side. But never say never.
Right. See, after this video, what I do is I tie him down and I pour 36 Nick in his eye to try to get some more information. Maybe I'll get something. I don't know, but probably not. Probably not. Any closing statements, final words before we wrap this one up?
No, I mean, just want to say thank you to everybody. I mean, that's we've been a part of the modders community since before we opened Evolv. and we've watched this industry grow, and we're kind of at this watershed moment now with the deeming regs and all of this. And you know, our hope, our want, our solemn want is for this industry the way it is to survive.
Brandon, thank you so much for this,
No
man.
problem.
I
Thank you for
am
having
so
me.
appreciative. And now you're right. We do have to go find something to eat. Thank you. Lots
Thank
of luck
you.
with the new product.
Yep.
And like I said, or like Brandon said, if you're watching this video, they're probably on their way out there to you guys. So keep an eye, and I'm sure you're going to see this board and all of the popular mods that are out there with a whole lot more mods to come.
Yeah.
Right. Luckily,
New toys.
I only get to test it once, and then I refer back to that original one. Let's see if I can find any thumbs down. Well, the screen staying lit for an hour and a half isn't a thumbs down anymore. That's a good thing. All right, Brandon, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Can I taste your juice?
Well, hold that. I gotta go pee.
Yeah. Watch your head.
That's an outtake.
What, see, okay, there we go. He banged it once. See, what you guys don't know is that Brandon is the tallest person I have ever had in my basement, and I have relatively low ceilings. Okay, in the standard part of the basement, he could walk just fine, but there are some moldings and stuff, and I've warned him. And although he is concerned with battery safety, I really should have padded the ceiling for Brandon's head safety.